We have a week 6 matchup between the Carolina Panthers and the Atlanta Falcons. Once upon a time, they used to call this the 85 South rivalry. Hasn't been much of a rivalry because the Falcons have really dominated this series over the years. But in this video today, I'm going to preview this matchup, give you some keys to the game, players to watch, matchups to watch. I even got you some prop bets or some sports bets at the end to show you how to make some money. And of course, a downright prediction of what is going to happen. And we're starting right now. What up, though? My name is Aaron Duncan with the Necessary Bluntness Sports Talk. Recap and analysis of the Panthers is here. So if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button down below. You're going to get news and updates and film breakdowns on the Panthers, giving you your water cooler talking points 3 to 5 business days in advance before you hear them anywhere else. So give this video a thumbs up as well. It really helps me out in the algorithm. But we just got word that the Carolina Panthers will be wearing the black helmets. Yes, they'll be wearing the black lids. I have my blue lid on, but the Panthers will be wearing black. And they're going to be wearing the blue on blue jerseys, the color rush, all blue with the black helmet. A combination we've never seen before. A combination that the Panthers are undefeated in. And the last team they beat wearing the black helmets, the Atlanta Falcons. So, coincidence? I think not. But regardless, the Panthers will be returning to home for a 4:25 kickoff. I don't know why I said 4:25 over on the East Coast. It just, I don't know. I don't know. Because then I'm going to have to do my post-game live stream super late. So make sure you guys are subscribed so you catch that, because hopefully it's good. And I'm popping some champagne on that live stream. But regardless, this game is going to be interesting in my opinion. The Falcons are coming off of a, I guess, mini bye week. They played on Thursday against the Tampa Bay Bucks, which ended up being one of the better Thursday night games we've seen since Prime has bought the rights to Thursday night football. But regardless, we saw a lot of passing yards from Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins passed for 500 yards, the rare 500-yard passing game. It did go to overtime, but 500 yards is nothing to sneeze at. He just might have beaten the prime time allegations, because the whole thing and knock on him is his record on prime time games, and he's 1-1 this year. But some funny stuff happened against the Chiefs, like it always does earlier this year, and then they ended up winning in comeback fashion, which is pretty much the Bucks blowing the game last Thursday versus the Bucks. So we'll be seeing them with a little bit of extra rest, traveling up to Carolina to play on the road. For the Carolina Panthers, they just got smoked last week by the Bears in the Bryce Young, Caleb Williams bowl that these guys are connected with. But it was a blood and guts game for DJ Moore. DJ Moore went off for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, and it was just ugly for the team overall. And they really didn't get much going offensively after a pretty solid showing from Andy Dalton over the first couple games. And the only thing to speak about was that first drive with Chuba Hubbard getting that long run. They kind of went away from the run, and once the game really got out of hand, they completely went away from the run. They ended up giving up 30 points, of course, like they've been doing. They give up the most points in the league from a defensive standpoint. So this defense continues to struggle, and when the offense struggles, it just makes the whole team look bad. So let's talk about the things to watch in this game. The first thing I'm looking at on the Panther side is the Panthers offensive line. They've been pretty good this year. They're giving up an 18.3 pressure rate, which is 4th lowest in the league. PFF has them ranked as a number 8 unit, and they fell about 4 spots from last week, because last week was probably their worst performance of the year. They've done a pretty good job of keeping Andy Dalton clean. The system has allowed them to play pretty well, as the ball had been coming out very quickly from the quarterback's hands. So it takes a lot of pressure from that offensive line, but they got to give them some credit, of course, too, because they've played pretty well and held up in pass protection. Now, of course, they suffered 2 injuries. Right tackle Taylor Moton, who had not missed a start in his career, will be missing his first game with a triceps injury. And of course, center Austin Corbett had a bicep injury, and he's going to be out for the year because that will require surgery. So the 2 backups are going to be Yosh Nijman, who filled in at right tackle for Taylor Moton last week. He gave up 5 pressures on 22 pass block snaps. Not ideal. But Brady Christensen will be starting at center for the first time. He did get 15 pass blocking snaps last week and gave up 0 pressures. Brady Christensen has played up and down the line for the Carolina Panthers since he's been a member and been drafted. He's played left tackle. He's played guard. He's played center now. And so the versatility he has been invaluable to them. But we going to see what happens when this boiler starts at center, because it's a whole new ball game, because you're going to be going up against Grady Jarrett, one of the better defensive tackles, veteran, experienced player in this league. Now, of course, Brady Christensen started at left guard last year against the Falcons. It was his only game of the year before he tore his bicep of his own and he was out, but he held up pretty well there. And of course, I talked about his pass blocking last week. 0 pressures on 15 snaps. Something to feel encouraged about from that center position overall. So we'll see how things turn out up front up there. But the pass rush for the Atlanta Falcons is bad. I mean, like, we want to talk about bad. It's just as bad as the Carolina Panthers. The only team worse in pressure rate, according to some metrics, is the Falcons, which is crazy to hear in terms of that pressure rate. Both of these teams struggle to get after the quarterback without blitzing. Even when they do blitz, it's still not that successful as well. So we'll be seeing what happens. I expect the Falcons to try to generate pressure at least from bringing blitzes and extra men, just because when you have linemen that are new, that haven't been with the whole cohesive unit, there's some communication issues that can happen in terms of who has what, sorting out blitzes when guys are dropping, when guys are blitzing. They're trying to figure out and sort that, and when they don't have that chemistry together on the job, it can be some headaches and guys can end up coming free. Assignments can be missed. So I expect them to try to cause some confusion and bring the blitz there. Of course, Brady Christensen will be playing center. He's going to be trying to call protections. This will be his first time on the job calling protections and working with that. So setting the line and setting the protections is a whole different ball game. So I expect them to try to bring some confusing looks from the Falcons to try to spring somebody free and create an advantage that way. In terms of the things to watch for the Falcons had an offensive explosion last week, and they took advantage of a beat-up Bucs secondary. So I expect them to try to capitalize on that momentum, like I said, especially with a lot of rest. And I expect them to pull some extra stuff out of the bag with that mini bye week that they had in the bag. The Panthers actually, their defense is horrible. Let's just be for real. Their defense is bad. They give up the most points in the league. They can't get after the passer. They can't defend the pass. They can't stop the run. This team has injuries as well, so it's just doubling down and tripling down on the ineptitude of the unit overall. I made a film breakdown this week on how bad they were and why they were that bad, and so go check that out if you haven't. But they're going to be having their rookie Trevin Wallace starting for the second time in the middle. And overall, I just think that the only maybe shining light, if you want to be uber optimistic about the Panthers defense, which is hard to be, is the fact that defensive coordinator Ejiro Evero has familiarity with his opposition. Yes, the Falcons offensive coordinator is Zach Robinson. Zach Robinson and Ejiro Evero both were on that Rams staff with Sean McVay, so they go way, way back like silk white beaters and wave caps. So these dudes have some familiarity. Maybe Ejiro Evero can do some things that, you know, can maybe throw off the tendencies of Zach Robinson and maybe what he likes to do. Who knows? That's just the only shining light or saving grace that could probably come and help the Panthers, because it's going to get ugly. I mean, and it's been look ugly for them as a pass rush as well. I talked about the Falcons pass rush. The Panthers pass rush is bad as well. They've been cycling these guys in and out like clockwork, and with Jadeveon Clowney, who's their best pass rusher for better or worse, probably and doubtful for this game, excuse me, it's going to be ugly. And they did sign Shaq Lawson and Marquise Haynes, and I expect both of them to be promoted, very experienced veteran edge rushers. But these guys may not be in game shape. So how many snaps can you count on for them? And if they can't get pressure, I mean, they haven't been able to do it, but it's going to get ugly, and I'm scared to see how things are going to play out after what the Falcons just exploded for last week on Thursday Night Football. So who are my players to watch on each side? On the Panther side, I got to say Brady Christensen. I talked about him a little bit earlier. It'll be his first career start at center. He has some experience playing in the interior, but we'll see what happens, man. Not a ton of experience there. He's been that backup swing guy, whether it's a guard or a tackle or coming in personnel packages, being that extra tackle. So it's not just inexperience and lost. It'll just be inexperience at that position. So you want to see how the snapping accuracy is for him. Are there high snaps? Are there low snaps? He had that snap that was a little bit hot and off target from Andy last week, and luckily Andy avoided the safety. But those are the type of things that you can happen when you have a guy that hasn't been on the job and you have guys lining up directly in front of you and you have to snap. That's something that's just not natural for everybody, and you don't just plug and play seamlessly like you do on Madden. You have to get some used to. You have to take some used to for that stuff. But I'm excited about Brady Christensen. He's a very, very smart player. I actually expect him to play fairly solid just because he's been solid for the Panthers when he's gotten an opportunity. He's just not big, and he's just not overly aggressive in terms of just the running game, but he's a very smart player, athletic, and I think that he should be okay, especially with those big guards beside him with Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis. Like I said, he'll be going against Grady Jarrett and David Onyemata, two guys that are pretty solid guys and experienced as well. So We're going to see. Like I said, 0 pressures on 15 dropbacks. That's something you can build off of, and you know Dave Canales loves to throw that football. On the Falcons side, Drake London is the player to watch for me. He had a huge game last week, and he has been the go-to guy for Kirk Cousins over the past couple weeks. You can clearly see his targets starting to escalate and trending up with double-digit targets in back-to-back games for them. And like I said, he just went crazy out of nowhere. He's been on my fantasy team, and that was a welcome sight for me in that standpoint. But I just think he's a player to watch this one. They've been using him in the slot a lot more. I looked at some numbers from Next Gen Stats, and they've used him in the slot way more than usual. He's been in the slot 31.6% of the time, which is the highest rate of his career. But he's being targeted when he's in the slot at the highest rate in the NFL as well. So basically, when he's in that slot, the ball is more than likely coming his way, and it has been coming his way more than most in the league. So beware for him there. The question is, what will they do to defend that from the Panthers standpoint? J.C. Horn has done a great job of locking Drake London up in pretty much all their matchups they faced against each other in their career. Drake London really hasn't had a great game against the Panthers in his career, but J.C. Horn really doesn't travel. We've seen that. He doesn't travel. He really doesn't go in the slot. We play a lot of zone on this team, and Drake London is a big target. That's why they like putting him in the slot. That's why he's been so productive for Kirk Cousins there. And with the Panthers playing a lot of cover 3, the seams in the middle of the field could be pretty open, especially with their rookie linebacker. So does J.C. Horn go inside, or will he be getting a matchup with Troy Hill or Shaw Smith-Wade, 2 guys that are 5'10" at best, and Drake London is what, 6'3", 6'4", so you see the size difference. It could be a recipe for disaster if they don't find a way to offset what Drake London can do in the slot. So what is the game plan for the Carolina Panthers? To me, it's pretty simple. Offensively, the vision is clear. Run the damn ball. It doesn't get any more simple than that, and Dave Canales has made it harder than it needs to be. They need to feed Chuba, who has been their best offensive player this year, no questions asked. I know they love trying to get the ball to Deontay, but Chuba Hubbard has been the best player on the team, most consistent, far and beyond this year. He just has not gotten the proper opportunities. He's top 5 in the NFL in rushing yards. Yes, top 5, and he's averaging almost 6 yards per carry, but our coach still won't give him the ball. Even though games do get out of hand in the second half, there's stretches after that first or second drive that Canales just gets away from it. He tries to establish it early and just completely gets away from it, even when the offense is starting to go off the rails. So I think that running the ball will be key, because the Falcons, they rank last in the league defending runs between the tackles, which just happens to be the Carolina Panthers' strength. And I got that number from Next Gen Stats. The Panthers' strength is running between those tackles. We know we have Icky and we have Yosh out there, but running it inside, you spent all that money on your guards with Damian Lewis and Robert Hunt. You didn't just spend that money for them to pass block. These dudes are big human beings. Let them lean on that Falcons defense, move some guys around. You have a great running back behind him. It just seems like it makes sense, and let the offense grow from there. If you want to pass, do it off of play action. Do it off of play action. Don't get into a drop back game because you know your defense is bad. Dave Canales tends to call plays sometimes with, I guess, in a microscope and not thinking about, okay, my defense is bad. Let me burn as much clock as possible to keep them off the field. If you keep them off the field, good, because when they're on the field, we know bad things happen. That's why they're the worst defense in the league in terms of points allowed thus far. So run the ball. I also think that Deontay Johnson should have another breakout game. I think there's going to be some opportunities if they put him in a slot, similar to how Drake London is being deployed in that slot, and just move him around. Don't give him any of those pop passes or end arounds you try to do. That's not his game. Yards after catch really isn't his game. He does his work before he gets the ball, and he can come up with some plays there when the ball gets to him, but he's not a yak guy that you want to just get the ball in his hands. You can use Xavier Legette for that stuff. You can use Mingo for that stuff. Don't worry about trying to get Deontay involved in a short passing game. Let him eat across the middle in the slot, do all those things there. I expect a bounce back game from Deontay Johnson after having some struggles just last week against the Bears. But the Falcons will be playing a backup linebacker again with Caden Ellis starting, and I think Troy Anderson is the name of their starter. He has been pronounced out, and I want to attack him with a play action. Caden Ellis, he across the middle. Last week when I saw watching the film against the Bucks, he bites on play action super hard, and he doesn't have the foot speed to recover to get back in coverage. The same thing with the running game. If you can get him to break down, you can beat him to the corner and get outside at times, because his foot speed and his play recognition and diagnosis aren't really up to snuff. So I want to take advantage of him, really put him in the bind with play action and running the ball dead at him with our guards. And you can really take advantage of that in the middle with Excel or Mingo or Coker if he gets involved, and just really try to do some things in the pass game as well by building off of that play action. Because once you start running that ball, they're gonna try to compensate for it, and you can just go right over the top behind them. I just still think there's room to take advantage, and I saw the Bucs do that with play action at times and getting to the perimeter and putting those linebackers in a bind. On defense, stop the run. It's going to start with stopping the run. I know there's been a task, but stopping the run is going to be key. The Panthers aren't the best tackling team in the league. They're horrible, actually. But they did do a tad bit better in the second half last week against the Bears. Maybe something to build up on. But Bijan Robertson and Tyler Algier are two backs that are hard to tackle. Bijan just because he's slippery. But Algier is really a bruiser, and I expect Algier to be a guy that they try to lean on more so this week, because Bijan has been beat up thus far with a little hamstring soreness earlier in the week. But play action was killer last week because we do have a rookie linebacker in Trevin Wallace and another linebacker in Claudin Shirless, who are very inexperienced, and they, similar to what the Falcons I was talking about, biting up on play action, really killed them and left guys wide open. And I expect, which is play action, which is a staple of that McVay, Zach Robinson tree or whatever that they run with Kirk Cousins. Play action is a very huge staple of that. Even though Kirk Cousins isn't mobile in terms of rolling out and booting, I do expect a lot of play action there. So being able to stop the run and neutralize the run and take it away at least will allow you to kind of make them one-dimensional and try to make it a drop back game for you, which is, it's not ideal because you're not good at stopping the pass either, but you got to take something away. And I think stopping the run in their backs is the way to kind of attack it. The second thing, can you get pressure? I don't know how you're going to do it. You haven't been able to do it. You don't really have the horses, but can you get pressure? If you can find some light and some crack in the armor. Kirk Cousins is a different quarterback, like many quarterbacks, when he's under pressure. When he's under pressure this year, he has 5 interceptions, no touchdowns. When he has no pressure, 8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, which is the best in the league in terms of the total touchdowns. So you can see the stark difference between when he's under pressure and when he's not. He hasn't really been mobile because he's recovering from that Achilles injury, still working his way back. He never was a runner anyway. So he's going to, you know where he's going to be in the pocket. He's not like Caleb Williams where you got to like half rush because you're scared he's going to scramble. You can just pin your ears back and go get him. So I hopefully expect them to be a little bit more aggressive in their rush lanes this week than they were last week. Like I said, no clowning, so it's going to be a tough task. But Marquise Haynes, Shaq Lawson, guys are their experience. How many snaps they play, we'll see. But I'm hoping they can make an impact, and you're going to need them to make an impact because, like I said, you see the difference. And I also think they just got to force a turnover or two. You're not going to be good. Turnovers are pretty much a luck statistic. You weren't good at it last year. They are on a lot better pace this year. Didn't cause any turnovers last week, but if you can force a turnover or two, get an extra possession for your offense, and if they play to complement you by playing ball control, you can really take the air out of the ball, make this a low-scoring game, lean on them, like I said, and just do your thing. But like I said, those turnovers can be lucky. They had about 3 opportunities that they missed last week, starting from the open and snap where J.C. Horn almost had a pick 6 from Caleb Williams if it wasn't tipped away. So I think there's been opportunities there. They just got to take their shots on the football to force those fumbles. And I think they can take some shots when they come in terms of Kirk Cousins, ideally after he's pressured. And like I said, I gave you that right there. But hopefully they can cause those turnovers. They've been trying to bend but don't break, but they've been bending and breaking. So getting turnovers will go a long way. All right, it's time to figure out how to bet on this game. Let's talk about it. Let's make some money. Panthers fans, it's hard to watch these games. So the best way to make it more interesting, throw you a little bit of action on there. Maybe a little fantasy football, but throw you a little action on there and bet on this game with some prop bets. I use my go-to mybookie.ag. Obviously, if you want to get a sign-up bonus, use my code UBST for 100% deposit match. I will link down in the description for you to sign up and get that. You can bet along with me. That's where I'll be using all my information from when I make these bets. So make sure you do that. You can support the channel, get a 100% deposit match, and we can make money together. So let's go ahead and get into it. My first thing to bet the game as a whole, I like the first half total over 23.5 points. Now, for each team, looking at their schedules, 4 out of 5 of their games have gone over this total and smashed the total. And the games that they didn't go over, the Falcons were playing the Steelers in week 1. So, of course, Kirk Cousins was very, very rusty, and the Steelers have a great defense. So it was just one of those running the ball, knock them out, slug them games. It was a very, very slow start, but they play an ugly style and a suffocating defense. So I'll throw that one out. Every other one has smashed it. I'm talking 27 points, 30 points in some games, and they've just been able to start out fast in these games. And we even saw the shootout last week with the Bucks. We know that the Panthers defense is not that good, so I expect points galore. Now for the Panthers, the only game that didn't go over this 23.5 first half total was the Chargers, and we know the Chargers pretty much, they're a methodical offense. They run slow. They run the ball and stuff like that. I think there's going to be a lot of points in this game, hopefully from the Panthers, but I definitely think the Falcons are going to score. So I like the early over in that first half of 23.5. My next one is the Falcons team total over 26.5 points. This just comes down to the Panthers are giving up the most points in the league at over 30 points per game. And unless Dave Canales really comes to his senses and decides to go against everything he's done so far this year and run the ball to take the air out of it, this should be a piece of cake for the Falcons. I'm thinking 28 to 30 points for them. And I think that, I mean, you may sweat it a little bit getting 28 to 30 points, but I just think that 26 points is a pretty solid number for them to target. Like I said, everybody has done it. We saw them coming off that offensive explosion. They scored in the 20s pretty much every game except that Steelers game. So I expect more of the same this week, especially against one of the worst defenses in the league. So Falcons team total over 26.5. Let's get to the prop bets because everybody loves the prop bets. I'm starting with Chuba Hubbard over 60.5 rushing yards. So Chuba has been the workhorse for the Carolina Panthers. He's been that RB1 for them. I just feel like Vegas has been sleeping on them. The only thing that's going to keep Chuba from smashing this number, I'm telling you, is Dave Canales. If Dave Canales is not a hater and he actually gives Chuba the ball, this should be a piece of cake. Now, he's cleared this line in 4 out of our 5 games this year, so I'm not even sure why this number is still so low. They're treating Chuba like he's just a regular running back, and Vegas has him projected also for 14.5 carries. And just to be conservative, I looked at the numbers for Chuba Hubbard when he has at least 10 to 12 carries in the game, just because I know Dave Canales is a hater. In his last 10 games with 10 carries, he cleared this game 8 times. So 80% of the time of the last 10 games that he's had at least 10 carries, he's cleared this line, and I expect him to get double-digit carries at the very least. Just for the icing on the cake, I'm going to give you the history of what the Falcons have done in terms of running backs. Last week, they gave up 72 yards to Rachaad White. Okay, they gave up 44 yards to the backup running back, Bucky Irvin. The week before that, they gave up 77 yards to Kamara. They gave up 72 yards to Carson Steele of the Kansas City Chiefs, a rookie running back. They gave up 95 yards to Saquon Barkley, and they gave up 70 to Najee Harris in week 1. So pretty much every game they've had somebody smash this number. Chuba has been a moneymaker for me because he's making himself money. He's running angry. He wants to get paid. I'm smashing Chuba over 60.5 rushing yards. The next prop bet is going to be Darnell Mooney. I'm going for his longest reception over 20.5 yards. Now, he's cleared this line in 4 out of 5 games this season, and Vegas just continues to sleep on him just because he's not a household name per se, but Kirk Cousins really, really loves him. And you can just tell, the Panthers secondary has been bad, and when they're giving up big plays. I'm just looking at the history. His last 4 games, he had a 24-yard catch, a 36-yard catch, a 26-yard catch, and a 41-yard. He's been that speed guy that's taking the top off at times and running those comebacks when the defense is bailing too much, and that's what's allowed Drake London to actually make a lot of plays underneath and in the slot. So they've kind of used him as the clear-out guy, but he's also been getting a lot of love from Kirk. His targets have been trending up over the last few weeks. He had as many as 16 last week, and I just love this play right here for him. And just look at the history that the Carolina Panthers have given up to speedy wide receivers just like him. They gave up a 34-yard reception to DJ Moore last week. Andre Iosivas, a rookie who plays in the slot, had a 29-yard reception. We know Jamar Chase had that crazy 63-yard reception with the yards after catch against the Raiders. Trey Tucker, he had a 54-yard reception. And then, of course, we know the Chargers, even though they're as conservative as they are, they give up a 29-yard reception to Quentin Johnston. And then, of course, another speedy guy from the Saints. They gave up a 59-yard reception to Rashid Shaheed. So the history is there. The numbers and trends are there for him clearing this at 4 out of 5. I love Darnell Mooney over longest reception of 20.5 yards. The last prop bet that I have for here before I give you guys my parlay that I'm playing is going to be Tyler Algier over 37.5 rushing yards. He's cleared this game in 3 out of 4 versus the Panthers in his career, and the Panthers are giving up the 3rd most rushing yards to running back in the NFL. Like I said before, Bijan Robinson is a little banged up. He was limited earlier this week with the hamstring injury, and maybe I think they're going to balance the load in terms of the running game between those two a little bit more, and I expect Algier to get a little bit more carries. Vegas has him projected at 9.5 carries, which would be crazy for him, but he's only averaging about 6.6 carries per game, so roughly 6.5, 7 carries per game. Even if he only hits his average of 6.5, if he hits that 9.5, he's smashing that. But if he hits that 6.5, he's cleared this in 70% of his last 10 games. So 7 out of the last 10 games that he's had at least 6 to 7 carries, he's cleared that line. So if he gets that 9, I think this is a no-brainer. He's going to be running to the perimeter. The Panthers aren't good at tackling. He's a big, bruising type of back, and he's had success in his career against them. I like Tyler Algier over 37.5 rushing yards. Let's do a parlay real quick. So I'm going to start with Kirk Cousins over 225 yards passing. He just had that 500-yard game. I think his numbers are a little bit inflated at 254, which is why I didn't make him a straight prop bet, but I'll reduce that number down to 225. I think that he has his way against this Panther secondary, who doesn't get much of pass rush. I gave you the numbers of how good he is without pressure. I don't think they get much pressure on him, and I think he's able to spread the pill around and has at least 225 yards. Chuba Hubbard, 50-plus yards. I told you I love the number at 60. I'm going to buy it down to 50 because I love it even more there, just to give us some wiggle room. Like I said, if Chuba hits, he's averaging 5.8 yards per carry. If he can hit 12 carries, I think 50 yards is a layup for him. Next up, Darnell Mooney, 40-plus receiving yards. He had 16 targets last week. He's been getting hella love from Kirk Cousins. I already loved him on the longest reception. I think that Vegas continues to slip on his line. It's only 48, so I'm going to buy a little wiggle room, get him down to 40, feel a little more comfortable with it, and I'm going to add on top of that first half total over 23.5 that I mentioned earlier, just because I think points will be of the premium that day. And if you throw that into the old parlay machine on mybookie.ag, you're going to get odds of plus 342. So if you bet $10, you're going to win $34.20. If you bet $100, you're going to win $342. You can do what you want to do, but just make sure you use that code UBST to get that 100% deposit match, and you can have a little bit of extra ammo to put on this parlay and those prop bets that I gave you, and we can make some money whether the Panthers win or lose. We're going to be paid regardless. So what is my prediction for this game? If I want to go with my head or my heart, if I go with my head, I have to pick the Falcons 30-23. I think both teams score a lot of points. I just think that the Panthers, they just don't have the defense to be able to stop this offense. But I still think their offense, the Panthers, can do some things. Obviously, I think the running game is going to be a big staple of that. And the path to victory is clear. And I listed it out, but I'm just not sure if Dave Canales is going to stick to the guns and run the football like we want him to. And I think he's going to find some success through the air, maybe a little bit early, and fall in love with it. I still think we mix the run and pass together, but I still think we're going to lean heavily towards the pass. And I think that may play into the hands of the Falcons, because we're not going to be able to take the air out of the ball. I would go 30-23 Falcons, betting with my head, but my heart, I think there's a path to victory. I'm saying that if the Panthers run the football, run it, take the air out of it, I need one turnover from that defense. One, just one. And an extra possession with him sticking to his guns, running Chuba. We're in the black helmets, the blue jerseys. I just feel like we can't lose when we looking this good, man. If they stick to what they want to do, Dave Canales has the discipline to stick to the run. I think they can make this a low-scoring game, and I would pick this game 24-20. And I think just because the Panthers are able to get an extra possession, take the air out of the ball, I think running the ball will be a staple of that offense if they want to win this game. Chuba has a huge game with 2 touchdowns, and I think the Panthers win that game 24-20 with a pretty big upset from a Falcons team that's playing some pretty good football thus far from the offensive standpoint. So that would be huge. But you guys let me know down below in the comments your score predictions. If you have any sports bets or props that I forgot that I'm missing for this game, down below. But of course, like I said, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Sign up for mybookie.ag with UBST as your promo code to get that 100% deposit match. I appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.